Hey, this is Paul from Ukraine. I'm safe and sound where I live, and I'm finally back to work. And this is something I want to show to you in this today's video. So for the last week, I've been working on a very interesting project that I believe most of you will actually need. Um, this is a custom pack, so I'm finally into the custom packs game. And this is the pack that the idea of this pack I had for, well, since I worked with my first client, I guess, because the need for what it does, it most of my clients expressed the need, they had the need for this functionality, and Coda did not support this out of the box. So we had to do some workarounds to solve this, and now it's gonna be easily usable by, well, this pack that I'm building. The pack, let me just tell you that it's almost ready. I have some additions to it, and I'm ready to launch it, but it's gonna be a paid pack, so it's gonna be a premium pack. And well, I will launch it as soon as Coda releases paid packs. Um, yeah. So what is it, right? That everyone needed, and I had this idea since forever. I wanted, if I had to ever build just one pack, that would be this one. It's CrossDoc. Yeah, it's my version, my opinionated take on CrossDoc functionality. So what is CrossDoc? I guess I hope you know what CrossDoc is. If not, go read on it, watch a video on it. In short terms, CrossDoc is a feature that allows importing a table from one CodaDoc into another CodaDoc. It can be a table, it can be a view, it can be a view that's filtered down, that has some columns hidden. So this is perhaps one way, so far it's just one way to limit to share a portion of your data with someone else. As you know, you cannot share pieces of documents just yet at the moment of recording this video. Maybe Coda adds this eventually. But so if you have like a big doc with lots of data that is kept private, but you want to share a portion of this doc with, I don't know, a client or a subcontractor of yours, you create a separate doc, and then you set up the views that are filtered properly, and then you import these views through CrossDoc into a separate doc. Well, this mechanism works. This mechanism is great. Coda did a great job supporting this. But there are a few limitations that my clients and we hit them. There are some nasty limitations that could not be solved in a generic way and not in a way that would be acceptable by Coda, for Coda. But they can be solved in an opinionated way that I take full responsibility for, with maybe it's not the ideal solution in terms of user experience. It's not up to the standard of how Coda would like to see it. That's why it's not a part of the core offering. But as an external maker, as a third party, as someone who has access to Pack Studio and the API, the Coda API, I could create my version of CrossDoc the way I want it, right? And hope that people find it useful. And so I codenamed it CrossDoc Plus, and let me quickly showcase it to you. But before we go to that, let me show you what exactly are the problems with the existing CrossDoc. So this is a very common scenario. Imagine you have a consulting agency and you um, like work with multiple clients and you want to track tasks. It's the simplest example, right? You want to track tasks for different clients, and then you want to give each client their individual doc, which will show them their individual list of tasks that you are doing just for them and their statuses, build some dashboards on top of that, and so on, right? You want to have it like that. So what you would do with regular CrossDoc, how would it look like? You'd go create a view of tasks. So let's say out task for, what was the first client name? Yep, Holding. By the way, the names are totally made up. You create a view of tasks. you probably hide the client, you set up the filter on the client, and you probably hide the client. And then you go to the doc that you created just for that client, cross doc. It takes a few moments to load that newly created view to save it to the snapshot, but in a few moments it should, yeah, it should show it. For selection, you drag it in, wait for the table to load. There it is. And then you can create things like dashboards with, I know, pie chart on the tasks. What is the problem? Oh yeah, this is the category. Yeah, done and not done. So, and other things that you imagine building on top of each client's data. Now there is a problem with this. So imagine you want to create a doc just like that for another client, for Peter Parker, right? So what you have to do, well, you cannot just take this doc and duplicate it and call it Peter Parker, and yeah, it copies the doc. Let's give it a few seconds to do that. And you cannot just replace the view that you're loading from. So it still loads from holding tasks. So first you have to duplicate the view, right? You duplicate the view, you change the filter to Peter Parker, tasks for PP, and don't laugh at it. And yeah, you have no way to replace the data source because, well, you have to basically delete this one, bring in a new one. Where is this consulting agency? Tasks for Peter Parker. And your dashboard is gone because everything was set up on that source table, and you have to set up everything anew, basically. So yeah, this is a problem. Yeah, loaded it here because whatever. Yeah, you have to set it up anew largely. And there has been some tricks. I posted some tricks earlier in the community how you could make it easier to swap the data source. You would import the whole list of tasks but with no data so that it's not exposed, and then mix in things from these data source tables. It's 2 years old. But again, this is suboptimal. So what if there were a way to substitute the source, or what if there were a better way that would not require creating views? Imagine you don't have 3 clients, you have a dozen of clients, so it means creating dozen of views. And then what if you need to expose as another column like time anticipated, estimated, or whatever else, the notes field, the URL field, whatever. You would have to go over all the dozen views and enable that column in each of the dozen views. So I created a version of CrossDoc with row level security, and let me show you how this works. So instead of creating views for each client, you can create a single view, call it out tasks for clients or whatever, basically, but it should be named with the uppercase out prefix because, well, as I said, my pack is opinionated. It has absolutely to be a view. You cannot import base tables. You have to create a view separately. There's good reasons for that. I don't think I have time to explain it right now, but there are good reasons for that. And you create, again, a view of tasks, and it should have all the clients in it. So all the tasks for all the clients. Now setting up row level security. You add a column that has to be named underscore out underscore rules, and for some reason this failed. Underscore out underscore rules. And now this column you have to write some rules for. The simplest rule is to allow all is to just have an asterisk which says allow all. But the coolest thing is that you can allow each client allow access just to the parts of data that they can see. So how this works? On clients, you give each client a secret token. So let's say Yip Holding has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not very secret, but it's just a demo, right? It can be whatever. It can be a doc ID. It can be a huge randomized password, whatever. Peter Parker, QWERTY, right? And Spaceship Records, let's say it's ASDF. Very thoughtful passwords, but nonetheless. And the out rules column would read allow colon client secret. So this is one, you can hide this one, and this is how you set up a row level rule. So allow to anyone who has the secret, the password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, allow to anyone who has the password query, allow this row to the ones with the password ASDF. And now in your Yip Holding, you can get a crossdoc plus, sign in with my account, and you can bring in the secure table, which will give you the list of tables, but only filter down to those who have the out prefix, just for your convenience. It does not list all the tables that you have, so you don't have to fish out for the ones that are interesting for you, but only the ones that have the out prefix. And you bring in the table just like you would bring in the crossdoc, but there is an extra step. Choose what to sync, and you paste your secret 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you start syncing. And it syncs only the items that are allowed, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then what you can do then is that, let's say we delete the Peter Parker doc, and we copy this one. Let's say it's PP. And don't laugh. And well, ideally you create a template that has no passwords in it, because you risk storing it to the doc history. But when you go and you replace the password with a different one, and there is an error, but this happens sometimes. They just have issues these days a little bit. And it loaded the set of rows that correspond to this client. And whatever you had set up on the table, so let's say again, you delete the Yip Holding. If you have a dashboard set up on this sync table, you copy the doc. You don't have to recreate anything that's built on top of these crossdoc plus tables. So there are some other things that can be done with this. So there can be a rule that reads allow everything that ends with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this way you can have secrets like dev 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or like QA 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can have different secrets, right? Different docs. but have a single rule to say that, okay, allow to anyone who is in the dev team and has dev dash whatever secret code that's individual to each developer, but allow to read this, allow to sync this row to anyone whose token starts with the dev, right? Or you can enumerate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, comma 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. And there is also a deny rule. Show this row to anyone but the ones who have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 token. But you should, and if you want to export the whole table, again, just make it a formula, give it an asterisk, and this means this is a shorthand for allow everyone. Yeah, this is, well, one cool thing. But what if I create this consulting agency tracker and I want to actually, I create this consulting agency tracker, I want to share it as a template, maybe sell it as a template, both the agency tracker and the template for the individual doc. Well, secret or no secret, it still loads from one table, the one that you dragged from the list of secured tables, so there is no way to replace the data source. Well, there is a way to replace the data source. So let's say we have Yap Holding. This is a convenience feature, the secured table. It shows you the list of, well, docs that you can load from and list of the views that you can load from these docs. But there is also a swappable secure table that prompts you to enter the URL of your data source. And you can then replace the URL of the data source when you, well, copy the source as well. So show you in action. Swappable secure table, and you have to supply the URL manually. There's two types of URLs you can supply. You can, and it's the preferred way, to, sorry for the jump cut. So where was I? Yeah, you can use, just take this and copy the link to the table, or, well, to the line, to the table. It's better if you use the API link of this table, which is, you go to the Coda API and you find an endpoint that says it should say a doc, no, it's a doc ID extractor, but there is a way to bring this link to the, well, to the API link, to the full link of the table. So it's better if you enter not this kind of link, but it says the APIs, v1, docs, then the doc ID, then tables, then the table ID, and you can copy the table ID from here, copy view ID. But you can totally paste just the link that you get by copying this link. And it will again try and load the table or the view. Actually, not this view. I'm trying to load the wrong view. So copy view ID, copy this view ID. Yeah, this one does not expose out rules column. Good catch. Oops. Copy the link. It's loading. And in addition to the secret, you now also have the URL as a parameter. So whenever you decide to take the consulting agency tracker and make your own copy of the consulting agency tracker, and yeah, it just loaded everything because of the asterisk rule, and you create your own copy of consulting agency tracker, right? And let's turn this back to concatenate allow client secret. You can copy this link now and replace this doc ID with another doc ID. right? And the table with another table. It just appears that whenever you duplicate a doc, the table IDs, view IDs, column IDs are preserved, but the doc ID is different. And you click sync now, and it will now, well, it probably failed to fetch because the doc has not been saved to the snapshot yet. But if you, well, if you try again and maybe again, yep, now it loaded the data from this source. So this is how you can build templates that use cross-docs, so myriads of docs that you can then publish, sell, whatever, and have an easy way to replace the URL of the source. And of course, these can be formulas, so you can have an external table, save both the secret externally, save the doc ID externally, and just add this as a constant. So there's ways you can, there's lots of things you can now build on top of this. And finally, the third feature of the pack so far is that, okay, we've created the YEP holding, created some dashboard on top of it, we've created the, let's say we copy this doc, create the pp doc, and we create yet another copy, the one for spaceship records. And you want people to be able to, I don't know, give you comments and the star rating of how well you did the job. Right, so we add some input capabilities for clients. And spaceship records, perhaps the same comments. And scale. And we want to get this data back into, so it's YEP holding, it's what? It's YEP holding, and the password is 12345. It's PP and the password, let's say, oh, well, password is ASDF or QWERTY, and spaceship records, password is ASDF. Just some sample data. Just some sample data. And we want to collect that data back into the common doc. It doesn't have to be the cross-doc table, really. It can be a local table created in this doc, and that doc can be whatever table. It's just that this is a demo, right? There is the third type of the sync table that I have in my pack, and it's called a oops, copy, right? So, and it's called a, why does it ask me to oh yeah, because I haven't connected this yet. And it's called the query table. And what the query table does, it also expects some input, but the input is not a URL, but an input is a specially formatted query with a rather simple language of writing such queries. So let's just make a code block for the convenience. It's a table that allows you to merge data from multiple data sources. So let's say, well, there's some tasks here, and tasks here. It's a good idea to also have a row ID, and it's a good idea, and you also would need the rules column. Same here, you add origin ID and out rules set to load everything, and origin ID out rules set to everything. And what we can do now is that we can write a query. Select the columns we are interested in. Let's say task, comments, and scale. Task, comments, and scale, which is a type of scale. So you don't have to set type. You can omit type text. So you don't have to specify text. But if it's a number, if it's a checkbox, you have to, well, specify that. Select task, comment, scale. From scale, from, and here you enumerate the docs and views that you are about to import. But again, you have to create specifically not tables, but you have to create views. So it's a out tasks, let's say, and here as well. This is the doc ID. This is the doc ID. Actually, let's do it this way. Doc ID and view ID, comma. Doc ID, view ID. And if you have that view in place and then copy the doc, the view IDs are gonna be the same. So I just created the views after duplicating the docs. So I now have to do this manually for each view ID. And auth, whatever, because the token is, again, these doesn't have to be asterisks. These can be proper tokens and should be proper tokens. And you specify this token here. Select something from document and table, document and table, document and table with the password secret. And now you copy this and you supply this to the URL of your query table. And again, I guess it just hasn't loaded yet. Or there might be a bug I have to solve, because this thing also allows, let's say, let's try it this way. Actually, I don't even know if commas are required. I don't remember. Oh, yeah. They weren't required. They would be required within the brackets anyway. And this is the table that collects the data, right? And I forgot to say origin ID to also, well, to also load the scale and origin ID. And these are the rows and the values This is gonna take some time for this to load. This is the table that is a combination from tables in here, here, and here. And these could be in the same doc. So this is one way to merge tables. These could be in the same doc. These could be in different docs. Again, this can be created through a formula. So this is how you can collect data from multiple sources into a single sync table. So the rules are like this. It matches on the column names. So you enumerate column name, column name, column name, column name, and then when it goes through each of these tables or each of these views, it takes the values from column that's named tasks, column that's named comments, scale, and well, the origin ID. That's for us to be able to then maybe mix in the in or query table filter origin ID equals to this row. Well, it's one way to get the ID, right?